When you come to New York, you'll understand, my mother used to say. America has the Statue of Liberty, so free that anyone can make it, as long as they obey their parents. I believed her. 20 years ago, the ferry across Upper Bay pushed silver-tipped waves toward the Ellis Island shore. Briny wind slapped my face as I stared at the crowned figure with 7 rays, freedom's emblem I thought belonged to everyone. I was 14 then, clutching my backpack, standing among a crowd of immigrants with a feather-light heart. From now on, a new beginning. But freedom, it turned out, was a home decor item in our Brooklyn apartment. Something to display on a shelf, not to touch. My father, Victor, whose eyes stayed motionless like a frozen lake, laid down rules with his fist and with bills. He worked nights and said his life was hard because of a child, feeding off his labor. Me, whenever I talked back, his bony hand smacked the table loud enough to make my mother jump. My mother, Lydia, was kinder to strangers than to her own daughter. She cooed, "Maya, give me the credit card, it's time to pay. Your father almost had a car accident. There's hospital debt. Don't you love your father?" Those rhetorical questions were hollow but deafening, pounding me as steadily as the living room wall clock. I worked 2 jobs, days at a bakery, nights tending the kitchen of a small restaurant on Staten Island. When my boyfriend Daniel brought up an engagement, my mother rubbed her hands. "The groom's side will pay for the wedding, yes? Our daughter doesn't have much dowry, only filial devotion." And my mother's filial devotion meant I paid the rent, the electric bill, the medicine, even a new TV so my father could watch soccer. Daniel left after an explosive argument with my father about money. "Choose," my father said, face burning red. "Your parents or an outsider?" I chose silence. And I paid. Then my phone buzzed right when a purple dusk draped the steel arc of the gateway arch. I was in St. Pret, Louis, for a short pastry course, and I knew calamity was no longer a premonition. "Come home now," my mother said, voice shaking. "Your father fell. The hospital wants a deposit." "Why me?" I asked, gripping my bag strap until my fingers went numb. "You have insurance." The line went quiet for a beat. Then my father cut in, hoarse. "Don't argue. Send the money. Talk later." I watched a seam of gold run down the glowing arch and heard my heart thud in my ears. I was 34. I had worked 19 relentless years, and every time my bank balance filled, the tide pulled it back like sand sucked from shore. Freedom, again, was a glittering backdrop I stood outside of. That night, I didn't fly to New York. I sat by the hostel window watching the Mississippi roll black under the moon and wrote in my notebook, "Tomorrow, Maya will reclaim her own name." I returned to New York 3 days later, but not home. I went to the bank first. Behind the partition glass, the young teller spoke softly. "We need to verify a few recent transfers." She slid out 3 powers of attorney with my scrawled signature. A forged signature. Someone had taken a large loan in my name, writing on my credit score. Debt stacked on debt. "I didn't sign this," I said, my voice skidding. My hands went ice cold. "I understand," she said with sympathy. "But the loan has been dispersed. And," she lowered her voice, "the recipient is Mr. Victor. Last name Costa? Likely a family member." My throat tightened as if gripped by a fist. That night I went to the apartment. 3rd floor. It reeked of frying oil and stale smoke. My father sat at the table, eyes expressionless. My mother hurried toward me with a smile. "Maya, you're back. Look how your father's suffering." She flung open her coat, revealing a bandaged arm. "I went to the bank," I said. "Who signed my name?" My father's hand stalled on the tabletop. My mother's eyes flickered. Her tone turned pleading. "We only borrowed it for a while. You have stable income, so the bank approved it. Your father's had it rough. As a daughter, it's your duty." "What duty allows parents to forge their child's signature?" I almost shouted. "What duty allows you to beat and threaten me whenever I don't hand over money?" The air froze. My father stood. The chair screeched. He raised his hand. Instinct made me step back, palm braced on the cabinet. I remembered old bruises, the times I told coworkers I'd walked into a cupboard, slipped in the kitchen. I remembered our neighbor's little girl crying when she heard the thuds through our wall. "Don't," I said, but my voice no longer trembled. "If you touch me again, I'll call the police." For a split second, I saw something like surprise in his eyes. Then he dropped his hand, casting me a look heavy as stone. My mother broke the silence. "Maya, don't make this big. Who would believe you? You owe this family plenty. When we came to America, who fed you? Who raised you? Isn't it time to repay? You raised me, I said slowly, but not in exchange for my whole life. That night, I packed a few clothes and took the old tin box that held my grandmother Annika's letters, the silver-haired Greek woman who had cradled me as a child in Oia, Santorini. She died when I was 12. After we moved to America, my father told me to burn the letters, but I hid half. In one, she wrote of a white stone house facing the Aegean, where wind moved through arched windows like music, and pink bougainvillea trailed in ribbons. One day you'll come back, she wrote. I left before dawn. The Statue of Liberty was still there, blue in the morning haze. I gripped the ferry railing, my fist clenched. For a moment I felt like the 14-year-old girl again, except this time, I wasn't waiting to be rescued. A week later, I received an email from a law office in Athens. Miss Maya Costa, it read, your grandmother, Annika Chatsis, left a property in Oia, Santorini. According to her will, title transfers only when you appear in person to sign. We have tried to reach you for years. Recently, someone attempted to claim on your behalf, a man named Victor Costa, but was not approved. Please confirm soon. I read the letter 3 times. I wasn't dreaming. My father had tried to seize what was left to me. The house my grandmother had described was real. That same afternoon, another bank called to say a new credit card had been opened using my SSN. I understood. If I didn't cut loose now, I'd end up with nothing but fraud-soaked debt in my name. I sent one email to my parents. I will be away for a while. Do not contact me. Any loans or transactions in my name will be reported as fraud. Then I powered off my phone and bought a plane ticket. To avoid being traced, I didn't fly straight to Athens. I routed through Chicago, then St. Louis for a night. Then on to Munich, where an old friend, Ruth, ran a lakeside inn. As the train pulled out, I rested my head against the glass. German trees streaked backward. I thought of nights in the restaurant, the hiss of pans and the call of, order up. Thought of Daniel. Married now, according to rumor. But strangely, I no longer felt hollow. Fear was giving way to something else. Resolve. Ruth met me at her timber-roofed inn by the water, yellow umbrellas lined along the wooden pier. It was autumn. The pine forest behind the inn burned red and gold. We sat by the shore, the chill brushing my wrists. Are you okay, Maya? Ruth asked. I'm learning to be, I smiled. But I need help. Anyone here know Greek law? The attorney says I must appear in person. I don't want my father to find me. Ruth nodded. There's Theo in the village. Used to be a notary. Now retired. He goes to Santorini every year. I'll call him. That night, in the attic room, I slept to the steady lap of water on the pier. For the first time in years, I dreamed nothing and slept through. At dawn, Theo arrived. 70-ish, ash-white hair, eyes creased with gentle mirth. He listened, nodding now and then. Finally, he sighed. I know Victor. Not a good man. But there's something else. Something you should hear before you go to Santorini. What is it? He poured tea and set it before me. Your mother, Lydia, is not Greek, and Victor is not your biological father. My heart lurched. What did you say? Annika is your maternal grandmother. Your mother died young. Your grandmother raised you in Oia for a while. Later, because of family upheaval, you came to the US with Lydia and Victor. They adopted you to sponsor your immigration. Annika's will states clearly, the property belongs only to her blood granddaughter. You. Victor knew this, and tried to forge your signature. The cup trembled in my hand. A puzzle piece clicked. Why Victor and I shared no resemblance. Why my grandmother kept writing to me, calling me Sunlight of the Aegean. I'd thought it was a term of endearment. It was blood. Theo studied me. I know one more thing. The person who tipped Victor off was Yuri, your foster mother's cousin. He contacted the Athens firm pretending to represent you. Yuri, the cousin who taught me to ride a bike when I first came to New York, the one I trusted like a brother. My throat closed. How much had my faith been sold for? You must go at once, Theo said. And go carefully. Don't let them get ahead. 3 days later, I set foot on Santorini. Sunlight flared through the plane window as we landed, and the Aegean lay a deep, ink-blue spill. From Athenios port, the bus climbed the switchbacks to Oia, past serrated cliffs. White houses clung to the slopes like flocks of sparrows, windows sea-blue, dome roofs cool and round. The wind was dry, leaving salt at the corners of my mouth. The law office sat on a windy slope. Mr. Papadakis, with silver mustache and knowing eyes, shook my hand. Miss Maya, we have awaited you. Your grandmother's house has been safeguarded. Someone is trying to persuade us to hand over documents, but they have no standing. I know, I said. I want this settled today. We walked to a house tucked in a narrow lane, a pale pink drift of bougainvillea spilling over the porch. A blue door opened into a white paved courtyard with the sea dark and gleaming below. Time rode the breeze up the steps. I had run barefoot here once, holding my grandmother's hand. Memory rose so vivid I reached for the wall. They were already in the courtyard. Yuri. He'd grown stout, hair trimmed close, wearing the same mild smile I once believed. Beside him stood my mother, Lydia, in a dark blue dress, lips painted red. Maya. My mother spoke first, voice smooth as silk. You look well here. I missed you. I looked straight at Yuri. You sold the information to Victor, didn't you? Yuri avoided my eyes. I only helped family. Victor needed money. You know how he is. I do, I said. And I also know you impersonated me to email Mr. Papadakis. I have the copies. Your e-signature. You should be grateful I haven't called the police. My mother cut in. Maya, don't escalate. How often will you even use this house? Sell it, pay your father's debts. He's ill. Ill or gambling? I asked, and for the first time saw her flinch. Yuri cleared his throat. Maya, you've changed. In America, you became someone else. Right, I turned to Papadakis. I'm here to accept the property as per the will. If anyone interferes, please call the local police and the U.S. consulate. I have already filed for a restraining order against Victor in New York. My mother's face shifted. You can't do this to your father. He isn't my biological father, I said, voice low but steady, and fatherhood means protection, not exploitation. Wind tossed hair around my ears. The sea thudded below. In that moment I knew the line was drawn. From here on, I would live my own life. We signed everything that afternoon. Papadakis handed me an old key ring with a wooden charm carved like a windmill on the hill above Oya. He smiled. Annika wrote that you may keep, rent, or sell as you wish. There is a separate maintenance fund. She saved for years. And... He paused, opened a drawer and brought out a yellow envelope. This is her last letter to you. In slanted script she had written, Sunlight of mine, do not fear those who claim kinship but hollow out your heart. The sea will remind you. It embraces the shore, but does not let the shore command it. If ever you need, sell the house and use the money for what you know is right. I did not leave you property so anyone could put you further in debt. Tears spotted the edge of the page. My mother stood mute, lips quivering. Yuri rolled his eyes and left without a goodbye. That evening, I shut the courtyard door and watched white houses kindle warm gold like fireflies clinging to the cliff. Somewhere singing rode the wind. Grilled fish scented the kitchen. I felt peace. And I knew peace isn't free. It is a decision. The next morning, while I was tidying a small upstairs room, I heard hurried footsteps. I thought it might be Papadakis, but when I opened the door, Victor stood at the gate, face wine red. Two strange men flanked him. My mother trailed behind. Daughter. Victor smiled, his smile ablaze. In the end, you listen to your father. Hand over the keys. These men are buyers. They pay well. I stepped back, palm on my phone, feeling the cool stone under my feet. You have no right to be here. I'm calling the police. The police? He sneered. You think that trash restraining order in New York matters here? Here, I'm your father. He lunged as if to snatch the keys. I dodged. The keys clinked against the wall. My mother rushed forward, breathless. Maya, don't make this hard. Your father just wants to wrap it up quickly. There's already a deposit. By fraud? I asked. I tapped record on my phone and articulated each word. Mr. Victor has just attempted to coerce me into transferring property titled in my name. After forging my signature and opening loans with my identity in the U.S., I affirm this in the presence of attorney Papadakis. One of the strangers, the buyer's agent, hesitated, looking at Victor as if waking. You didn't say there was a legal dispute? Victor glared at them, then swung back to me, hand raised like always. But it wasn't the old days. I stepped deeper into the courtyard and hit call. Oya police? I need help. There's attempted fraud and harassment at my property. Victor froze. For a few seconds, silence nailed us in place. Then he let his hand drop and barked a brittle laugh. You learned American tricks. I met his eyes. No. I learned how to be a person. In a small town, the police come fast. Papadakis arrived too, carrying a copy of the will, and a clause I hadn't noticed. Should any fraud, coercion, or violence arise to seize this property, temporary management will transfer to a local charity for 60 days to protect the female beneficiary from threat. My grandmother had anticipated this. Victor ranted, but it was useless. They escorted him and my mother out and issued a temporary no-contact order for the house. I signed the report, hands still cold, but my heart oddly warm. When they left, Papadakis asked, "What will you do with the house?" I looked at the sea. Windmills stood like old sentries. I thought of my pastry work, of immigrant women I'd met in ESL classes, those who quietly wired money back home and endured violence in silence. "I want to sell a portion," I said, "and keep half the house as seasonal safe lodging for women passing through the island. I'll use the other half to start a shelter in the US." Papadakis nodded. Annika would smile. On signing day, I felt as if someone had peeled off armor that had rusted on my body for years. Part of the money went to a new account under Identity Protection Services. I contacted a New York attorney, filed suit over the forged signatures, closed all joint accounts, changed what I needed, even my social security number if necessary. I sent a letter to my mother. "I will not cut you off if you choose to leave the violence, but I will not return if you stand with it." There was no reply. When the paperwork was nearly done, I sat at a cafe on the cliff's edge and sipped a cold frappé, watching sunset pour fire over white domes. I thought I'd feel elated, but what rose instead was a quiet sadness, like salt on the lips after tears. I had nurtured a naive hope too long, that kinship heals itself, that one day my father would say, "I'm sorry," that my mother would hug me and say, "You did right." But it's okay. It's okay. I have stopped placing my fate in hands that do not know love. A year later, I stood on a Malibu beach. The sun, a burning coin, was about to sink, pouring honey gold over smooth round stones. The surf was loud, an ancient whisper. Behind me stood a low wooden house I leased as a temporary center, Lighthouse house, where anyone needing a safe night could knock. In the kitchen, waffles warmed the air with vanilla. In the living room, 3 women were learning how to open independent bank accounts. On the white wall, I hung a photo of the Gateway Arch blazing at dusk, the night I chose myself, a photo of the Lake Inn in Bavaria, where friends first steadied me, a photo of the Statue of Liberty, to remind me freedom is not bestowed but claimed, and a photo of Oya from the courtyard. White windmills keeping watch. Now not a tourist symbol, but an old friend. Ruth emailed, "I'll visit the US in spring. I want to bring hand-woven blankets for Lighthouse House." Daniel wrote once too, apologizing for the past. I read, smiled, and deleted. Not out of rancor, but because the past had finished its role. My mother never reached out. I heard Victor was banned from Greece for fraud. Someone said he left New York, abandoning my mother. I sent a short text. "If you need help to leave him, I'm here. If you choose the old path, I'll respect the distance." Then I pocketed my phone and opened the door to a woman whose husband had just smashed a bowl at dinner. She crossed the threshold shaking. I draped a cream sweater over her shoulders and placed a warm mug of tea in her hands. Some things my mother never did for me. Now I was learning to do them for others. That night, when the house was quiet, I walked alone along the waterline. The moon hung like a small boat. Cold surf lapped my ankles, leaving wet crescents on the sand. I picked up a smooth stone and skimmed it. It bounced and sank, ripples widening like our choices, spreading through the world even when we don't see them. From my pocket, I took the worn envelope. My grandmother Annika's last letter, the lines I knew by heart. I whispered, "I did as you asked. I kept my share. And I gave my share." A light wind rose, as if someone had smiled. The next day, I returned to New York to finalize documents. I ferried across the bay like so many times before. The Statue of Liberty stood there, green in the sun. This time I didn't see her as a hazy promise. I saw her as a mirror, one hand lifting a torch, one foot stepping forward from broken chains. I snapped a photo and sent it to the Lighthouse house group. We all carry this torch. I know the journey doesn't end here. Parents, past, wounds. Nothing vanishes with a single decision. There will be tired days and sleepless nights. But I also know this. I am no longer a victim. I am the narrator of my own story. And, if you're hearing this, maybe in a warm kitchen, a hurried hostel room, or a Monday morning train, I want you to picture Santorini at sunset. White steps leading to a blue archway, salty wind teasing your hair, windmills standing at ease. The Aegean blue as an old lover's eyes. You walk through that door, and no one drags you back. No one decides for you. Your hand closes around the handle, your own heart, and turns it. The door opens. You step outside. The wind greets you like someone long returned.